Our native languages are very, very important. They're a very important aspect of our identity. Yeah. So on today's edition of Footprints, we are going to discuss the possible reasons why our native languages are drifting towards extinction and what we must do to preserve them. Like the practical tips. We're going to have some practical tips. And for that, I'm having a special guest on the program. So please like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and let's all join in the campaign to preserve our native languages. Please subscribe to my channel for these kind of videos and even more interesting videos. Hello beautiful people, you're most welcome to Footprints with Bertuelle, as they will say in my native language. So today we're going to discuss a very interesting issue, the disappearance or the extinction of native languages. As you must have noticed, there are people around you who do not understand their native languages, and there's some other people who can understand but they can't speak fluently. And there are a group of people who do speak, but they speak a diluted version of their true native languages because these native languages have been infested by the dominant language around them. So the extinction of native languages is becoming a global issue, an issue of global concern. Yeah, that's why UNESCO has set aside February 21st to create an awareness on the need to preserve our native languages. Because some researchers actually foreseeing a world that is going to be monolingual and monocultural if nothing is done to preserve our native languages, which are a center, like the core of our traditions. Imagine a world monolingual, monocultural. How boring. I can't imagine an era or a generation without my native language. We are talking about the loss of our true identity, our originality. We are talking about the loss of our link to the past, our history, our foundation. We are talking about the complete disappearance of some native languages alongside their cultural beliefs, their myths, their dances, their songs, their attires, and all of that. I'm sure you don't want this because I don't want it. So thanks for joining in the crusade or in the campaign by watching this video today. Like this video. Share this video, comment on this video, and let's hit the road to shout it out there. We need to preserve our native languages. So, talking about native language extinction, I reached out to my sister from the hills of Bello, my sister from the northwest region of Cameroon, and we're going to have a conversation on the possible causes and how to, the way forward out of this kind of situation, like the practical tips on what to do. So she is a digital entrepreneur. I know her as a journalist, but I choose to call her a communication professional. She is a wife, she is a mother, and she is a proud girl, a bona fide girl from Bello. Tell us about your personal experience. I know that you lived in Gaoundéré, you lived in Yaoundé, you lived in Douala, you lived in Boya. So how come you're so tight to your culture, to your tradition, to your language? I know you even speak the Com language very well. So how come you're so tight to it?
You know, this language thing is, it starts from the very early stages of life. You know, the values that your parents pass down to you, the values that you grew up with. For me, my language is like an identity. You know, that's like an identity card. There's no way I would say I am a Com girl and you say Tolaima and I look at you like, what are you saying? There's a disconnect. There's the disconnect. So to be able to completely identify as who you say you are, I see this native language to be extremely important. That is your identity card. So that's the notion with which I grew up. My mom taught me my language growing up. My parents spoke it all the time. All my relatives spoke it. So I grew up with it. It was a part of me. So wherever I went, we found ourselves in Gaoundéré, we spoke the language. In Boya, at my aunt's house, we spoke the dialect. So it's very much a part of me. I can't remember a time where I was disconnected from my dialect.
actually some people, there's this school of thought that young people of our generation who speak the native languages are uncivilized. Why do you think it's absolutely necessary to preserve our native language, which is a core part of our culture?
I'll start by addressing that school of thought, which I have heard a couple of times, and it is downright shocking. It is shocking because, to me, if you say speaking your dialect is being uncivilized, it is the same thing as saying that you or who you are is being uncivilized. If you say, okay, you're German, you don't speak the German language, because if you speak the German language where Americans are, you would be considered as uncivilized. That is something I find very difficult to understand, because to me, it comes out, it passes through like a lack of self-esteem, self-denial, acculturation. It is an inferiority complex. You place yourself at the inferior position because you think that you speak the English language, you've become an Englishman. You lie. You lie. Yeah. You would never be. You would never be. I am, okay, let's say I'm a German citizen now, yeah, right? But there is no way I would ever dissociate myself from this Vanderleen, whom I am, who was born and bred in who grew up being a girl. These things there are things that come later in life, but you cannot dissociate yourself from who you are. So, this slogan that has become very common, we are proud of who we are, or be proud of who you are. You should be proud of who you are. You cannot be proud of who you are if you are not proud of who that person or what language that person speaks. So, it's even uncivilized to think that speaking your dialect is uncivilized. It's crazy. Yeah, just think about telling a Brit that, okay, speaking English is uncivilized.
Being uncivilized.
That's language.
How realistic can that be?
or telling a Frenchman speaking French is being uncivilized, man. Are you serious? So, we look at it from, I know
an
that
inferior position. From an inferior position.
You're from an inferior position. There's no, if you're a Cameroonian, you speak English, yeah, fine. That's fine. You speak French. Yeah, but where do you come from?
Your roots.
Yeah, from your roots.
True identity, your originality.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, when you told me about this topic, I just went Googling to see what I could find about local language extinction. And then the most shocking thing I found out was that UNESCO now considers the Akum language to be critically, what do they call that? To be
like an endangered species.
Yes, critically endangered. I looked at them like, oh, Akum, this is our neighbor. What's happening? What's happening to the Akum people? You should pass this language down. If you don't, it's gonna die. That's all.
Yeah, and talking about UNESCO is taking this seriously because practically some linguists are considering the extinction of native languages, like comparing it to the extinction of wildlife, which is a very crucial issue to the whole build of the human race. Yes. So a lot of people, like you were talking about, think it's inferior to speak your native language. And these are the reasons. Modernity is one of the major reasons why the native languages the languages are getting extinct, which is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous precedent. And there's also this intertribal, interracial marriage kind of thing that also makes people to get mixed up and the children get confused. And there's also a diversity, like we're talking in Cameroon, we have the two native languages, the two official languages, and we have like 250 languages. So people just get mixed up in all of this and they think, okay, because I've moved to the city, so it's okay to cut off, and we just get mixed up in all of this. And a lot of parents too have been very, very negligent when it concerns our native languages. So I want to ask you this as a parent. As a parent living in Germany, it must be very challenging to pass on this culture, this native language, because the native languages are a core part of our culture. It must be very difficult to pass this on to the kids. So what is your strategy? What is the plan for you?
Germany. I learned a third language when I moved here, right? And I'll speak German. So for my daughter or for my kids, German is the first language. English is my responsibility, you see, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, English is my responsibility. They don't learn that in school. So it brings an additional layer of challenge. So I have the responsibility to teach them the English language and my mother tongue. So despite it being so challenging, I am doing my best so that, I mean, if a person meets my daughter tomorrow, I wish she could come in here right now. I'll just let you see what I mean. I do my best. Most of it wouldn't be able to, I mean, she wouldn't be able to hold a mature conversation in com just because she is struggling. She's struggling between English and Itangicom, which are like
it must be
second languages to her, you see, right? But it is still my responsibility to pass this down. And I am happy to see that the little that she knows, she is passing down to her younger brother. I was so proud when the other day he stretched something to me and said, Gikwa, and I'm like, that's serious.
So practically, if you were to advise a parent like you who lives abroad, practically, what are the things they can do to keep that connection? Because imagine it's challenging for those of us who grew up in maybe Boya or maybe Yaoundé. Then how much more for a child like Tioni, who is not just confused about learning English and German at the same time, but she still has to add on com, which is a core part of her identity. So what practical tips can you be able to pass to tell a parent out there who is wondering what they can do to make the children integrate?
You know what to say. Where there is a will, there is a way, right? So the first thing I would say is to disconnect yourself from this school of thought that thinks that speaking your dialect is uncivil. That's the first step. Be proud of who you
and get
are.
the children to disconnect themselves as well.
Definitely. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of what you speak. So that is the first thing. I've made my daughter understand that despite you being born in Germany, you're German, all of that doesn't matter. We come from Cameroon, and in Cameroon, we come from Com.
And you're a Com girl.
Yes, and in Com, this is what we speak, right? So to her, it is a source of pride when she learns a new Com word. If she learns a new phrase in the dialect, for her, it's pride. She runs to me like, I can say this now. And I think that when she has like that hunger, right, chances are she would be more disposed to learn the language or more willing, right? And then she stands a chance. But if you tell her, oh, come on, that's a primitive language.
I know that primitivity part is heartbreaking.
So when you give a child that notion, believe you me, she would not make the slightest effort. And that is the error our parents back home make. They think when you live in Yaoundé, okay, you don't want your kids to associate with those back in the village, which is absolutely wrong. You make your kids to grow up with this notion and they don't struggle. They don't strive. They don't even see any reason why they should struggle to learn that language. And that's where the problem comes in.
So as a parent, the first thing, teach your children the native language. Wherever you are in the world, teach your children the native language. Personally, I'm not very fluent in speaking my language, but I'm making a conscious effort to learn the little parts that I don't know very well. I understand very well, I can't speak fluently. So when my child asks a question, I make it a point of duty to answer in the proper way. And I always call my mom and say, Atemkin is asking me this, how do I say it? If you're a parent and you maybe don't know how to speak fluently, you still have to make a conscious effort to pass it down somehow. Personally,
I mean, the little will know that would die with you, right?
Exactly.
And what happens? I think our generation has that problem. We have that problem because,
like you said, love of the language. Pass on that love to the children. For example, there's something very practical. When we're growing up, some people don't even love their native names. Come on. I mean, your own name, you don't want anyone to call you by your name. As in, when someone calls you Wiko, you're offended. Why? You have to first of all love your native name. And then we also have things that we can do. Stories. You can tell your children stories. Tell them about your childhood. Tell them about when you visited Com. Tell them tales that your grandmother told you.
Keep them connected to their grandparents, to their relatives, and all of those people who can speak this language. These are the kind of things that can keep you connected. And I think this is what the people who are thriving, this is what they do. Practice, practice, practice. Always remind them of who they are. Explain to them. Yes. Tell them this is your root. This is where you come from. You are from Lewa, from Burr Village in Bangwa land. Tell them, make them know their true identity. Say this whole thing you're living right now is just a part of your history, but your original identity is this village. You tell them those stories, make them interested in it, just like you mentioned.
Yeah, that's absolutely the winning strategy, and also make an effort to speak it.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Practice in the most little things. Send them on errands with the native language.
Exactly. I mean, it sounds difficult, but I mean, a lot of people think that it's going to be difficult for kids to learn the language. But I mean, linguists have proven that a kid younger than 7 has the capacity to learn up to 7 languages fluently.
And learn them perfectly, and learn them perfectly. And that's the advantage that the kids have. That's the advantage that the kids have. As an older person, because maybe we're talking about this and we are just tempted to go talking like parents. But there are young people out there who are like us, who are in that age group, or people who are even slightly older than us, who are not also concerned about their languages. So it's a problem because they can't even hand it down to their kids. So for me, to such people, I recommend, first of all, make an effort to learn the language. You're never too old to learn. Some people have traveled abroad to countries like Germany with a strange language when they are above 30, and they are able to learn German. And you think you're too old to learn your language? No, you're not. This is your identity, for God's sake. We have to take this seriously.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. So you can actually learn your native language.
Yes.
And give up. Because giving up, the consequences are really are enormous. We're talking about the disappearance of a whole chunk of who you are. We're talking about cutting off your links with the past. Yes. The consequences, they're not really free. You became a citizen of the world. You had roots, for God's sake. Yeah. We have to go back to our roots. We have to keep our roots alive. We have to preserve our culture, our native language. We have to. It's very, very important. Thank you so much for joining in this crusade. And I thank you, and I wish that you continue to take good care of my 2 Com kids in your house. Do you want to say something in Com for the Com people out there?
Hey, Mawentong too.
What does that mean? What does that mean? I'm not Com, so tell me what that means.
It just says I'm greeting.
Yeah. Just like they'll say in Bangwa,
hello.
Okay, thank you very much, girl. Thank you so very much.
Thank you too. Thank you so much. Yeah, you too. Bye.